Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Econ Inflect Knowing Everyday Economics. This is my part 2 of the banking series where I'll be discussing about the process of credit creation by commercial banks. If you haven't seen part 1 where I have discussed about the meaning and functions of central bank and commercial bank, then you can check the link given in the description box. So let's get started. As we know, the process of credit creation, or we call it deposit creation or money creation, is the most important function of a commercial bank, and therefore the money supplied by commercial banks through this way is also called the credit money. It is done by commercial banks on the basis that the bank uses the deposit of the public, which means कि हम जाते हैं बैंक में अपने डिपॉजिट अकाउंट में पैसे डिपॉजिट कराते हैं, तो बैंक उस मनी को आइडल नहीं रखता, वो उसे यूज करता है एंड विद दैट अमाउंट ऑफ मनी इट गिव्स लोन्स. बट वो कितना लोन दे सकता है और वो लोन अमाउंट के थ्रू वो कैसे क्रेडिट क्रिएट करता है, दिस इज व्हाट इज गोइंग टू बी डिस्कस्ड इन दिस वीडियो. So there are two very important functions of commercial banks which are performed here or used here are one, that the bank accept the deposits of the public, and with the help of that deposit amount it give loans back to the public. Now let us understand this with an example. Suppose there is a person who has money and he or she wants to deposit in the bank. So there is person A who goes to the bank and deposit the money in their deposit account. Now the bank has two options. Not two options, rather bank has to do two things. One, the bank will keep certain minimum amount of deposits as cash reserves. These are the guidelines of the Reserve Bank of India which every commercial bank has to follow, and ये इसीलिए किए जाते हैं. वन, that they should have enough liquidity, ताकि कोई डिपॉजिटर अगर आता है पैसे मांगने निकलवाने के लिए, विड्रॉ करने के लिए, तो the bank should have enough money. But assumption here is that all the depositors will not come together to withdraw the money. तो सिर्फ हम ये assume कर रहे हैं कि कुछ minimum percentage cash reserves में रखा जाता है. And secondly, after keeping some amount of cash reserves, the bank will grant the remaining amount as loan to the general public. Now we are assuming that there is a single bank, it is a single banking system, although in reality there is a multiple banking system, but for the time being or at this level हम सिर्फ single banking system समझ रहे हैं. So now the bank is giving loan to person B with the remaining amount after keeping the cash reserves. Now the bank will give this loan to person B not in cash, rather the bank deposits the loan amount into the deposit account of the borrower. The important thing to note here is there are no cash withdrawals. Whatever amount is given as loan is deposited into the bank, or rather comes back to the bank, and again with the same amount जो बैंक के पास वापस आया है, बैंक के डिपॉजिट्स बढ़ गए, फिर उस इंक्रीज अमाउंट से बैंक कुछ परसेंटेज कैश रिजर्व रखेगा और बाकी का लोन दे देगा टू अनदर पर्सन, एंड दिस प्रोसेस विल कंटिन्यू. ये इसीलिए चल रहा है प्रोसेस क्योंकि बैंक्स में से कोई कैश विड्रॉल्स नहीं हो रहा है. अगर कैश विड्रॉल्स होंगे तो इट विल एक्ट एज अ लीकेज. बैंक के मनी सप्लाई और फ्लो में से लीकेज हो जाएंगी, जिसकी वजह से जो क्रेडिट क्रिएशन का प्रोसेस है या तो वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो जाएगा, और अगर सारे ही कैश विड्रॉल्स होंगे तो वो स्टॉप हो जाएगा, क्रेडिट क्रिएशन हो ही नहीं पाएगा. ऑल्सो आई विल एक्सप्लेन इट थ्रू अ न्यूमेरिकल एग्जाम्पल इन द लेटर पार्ट ऑफ द वीडियो. So basically in a single banking system, as per our case which we are discussing, with the primary deposits, which means the deposits which are made by the public into the bank, into their deposit account. In simple words, ये वो डिपॉजिट्स हैं जो लोग अपने बैंक अकाउंट में डिपॉजिट कराते हैं. with the help of these deposits, bank will keep mandatory cash reserves as per the RBI and give the remaining amount of loan and create secondary deposit. Secondary deposits वो deposits थे जो कि as a loan amount are redeposited into the bank into the borrower's account. So this is what the major difference is between the primary and secondary deposits. So let's discuss both of them in detail. First, we have cash reserves. These are mandatory for each commercial bank to maintain, and these are the minimum fraction of the total net demand and time life deposits as cash reserves. This is done to meet the depositors' demand as already discussed and to maintain liquidity with the banks, and the remaining amount is given as loan to the general public. Now these legal reserves or the cash reserves consists of CRR, which is cash reserve ratio, the average daily balance that a bank is required, basically the commercial bank is required to maintain with the reserve bank as a share of such percent of its net demand and time liabilities that the reserve bank may notify from time to time. So basically some percentage of its net demand and time liabilities of commercial banks have to be maintained with the Reserve Bank of India. This is CRR and currently it is 4%. The another is statutory liquidity ratio, wherein the minimum percentage of its net demand and time liabilities are to be maintained with themselves, and this is currently 18%. This collectively makes legal reserve रेशियो. तो जितना ज़्यादा लीगल रिजर्व रेशियो होगा, बाय दैट आई मीन जितना ज़्यादा बैंक्स को अपने पास कैश रिजर्व्स रखना होगा आउट ऑफ द प्राइमरी डिपॉजिट्स, देन लेसर अमाउंट विल बी लेफ्ट टू बी गिवन एज लोन. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर 10,000 के कैश रिजर्व्स हैं और 20% तो लीगल रिजर्व रेशियो है, तो सिर्फ 80% ही वो लोन दे पाएंगे. और फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर 10,000 के प्राइमरी डिपॉजिट्स हैं और 30% लीगल रिजर्व रेशियो है, तो वो सिर्फ 70% ही लोन अमाउंट दे पाएंगे. तो जितना ज़्यादा लीगल रिजर्व रेशियो होगा उतने ज़्यादा कैश रिजर्व मेंटेन करने पड़ेंगे और उतना ही कम लोन दिया जाएगा. बट कमर्शियल बैंक्स हैव नो इन्फ्लुएंस ऑन लीगल रिजर्व रेशियो. वो सिर्फ RBI ही डिसाइड करता है एंड दे हैव टू स्ट्रिक्टली अडहर टू द नॉर्म्स ऑफ द RBI. नाउ with the rest amount, the bank gives loan to the public. After keeping mandatory cash reserves, banks give the remaining amount as loan, and it is assumed that the loan is not given in cash, and a deposit is created in the name of the borrower, which is known as the deposit account, which is known as the secondary deposit. Now, in a single banking system, it implies that the loan comes back to the same bank who advances the loan, and the total deposits of that bank will increase. And with the increased deposits, the bank will again keep a minimum reserve of cash reserves and then give out the remaining amount. And this whole cycle will continue till cash reserves become nil or zero. And hence, the process works on the wheels of advancing loans and creating secondary deposits with the loan amount and allowing no cash withdrawals. Now let us discuss this with a numerical example. Suppose there is a AIDB bank and there is Mr. Goofy who deposits money worth rupees 40,000. So this is the primary deposit. Now the central bank reserve requirement is 10%. Let us assume it. So accordingly, AIDB bank will keep 4,000 as cash reserves and the remaining 36,000 will be given as loan. So there is Mr. Mickey who comes and take loan from AIDB bank worth rupees 36,000. So the bank which had given a loan of rupees 36,000 will create a secondary deposit in the name of Mr. Vicky, and again this loan amount comes back to the bank and its entire reserves its entire deposits will increase by 36,000. Again, the bank will keep a 10% of its increased deposits, which is 3,600, and the remaining 32,400 will be given as loan. So now there is Miss Minnie who comes and takes loan from AIDB Bank worth rupees 32,400, and again out of this amount the bank will create a secondary deposits under the name of Miss Minnie. फिर से बैंक के डिपॉजिट उस अमाउंट से बढ़ जाएंगे, बैंक फिर से उसका 10% रखेगा और रिमेनिंग लोन ग्रांट करेगा, और ये प्रोसेस तब तक चलता रहेगा जब तक उसके कैश रिजर्व्स जो हैं वो नील ना हो जाए. AIDB Bank will open a demand deposit account in the name of Mickey and Minnie and issues each of them a checkbook to withdraw money. This implies there are no cash withdrawal, and this process would have come to an end had there been cash withdrawals. जैसे मैंने बताया था, अगर ये secondary deposits create नहीं होंगे और cash withdrawals हो जाएंगे तो there will be a leakage in the banking system which will not increase the deposits of the bank. Rather, it will increase the money into the pockets of the depositors. So credit creation का process चलता ही इस basis पे है कि deposits are redeposited by the way of granting loans. So this is the table in round 1. There are initial deposits of 40,000 after keeping cash reserves. Secondary deposits or loans are 36,000, and this process will continue till cash reserves becomes 0. So the formula for credit multiplier is 1 upon legal reserve ratio or 1 upon 10%, which comes out to be 10. So the total deposits will be initial deposits into credit multiplier. सो जो न्यूमेरिकल क्वेश्चंस है या MCQs में से आपको इस टॉपिक से बहुत सारे पूछे जाएंगे या फिर पूछे जा सकते हैं जहाँ पे आपको फॉर्मूला यूज करना होगा. सो मेक श्योर यू रिमेंबर इट. Multiply initial deposits for 40,000 with credit multiply 10, and this means कि बैंक के पास 40,000 के initial deposits थे और उसकी हेल्प से बैंक is able to create a credit or money supply in the economy worth rupees 4 lakh rupees. Now this whole process depends on two very important things. One, initial deposits जो public करती है बैंक में, अगर वो ज़्यादा होगी तो उतना ज़्यादा वो आगे लोन दे पाएगी. और दूसरा, legal reserve ratio. So the credit multiplier का formula is 1 upon legal reserve ratio. They are inversely related, which means जितना ज़्यादा आपको legal reserve ratio रखना होगा as per the RBI, उतना ही आपका low credit multiplier आएगा, and vice versa. Similarly, total deposits equals to initial deposits into 1 upon LRR. तो जितना ज़्यादा आपका initial deposits होगा, और we call it as primary deposits, उतना ही ज़्यादा आप टोटल डिपॉजिट्स और बैंक्स जो हैं वो क्रेडिट क्रिएट कर पाएंगे. सो टोटल डिपॉजिट्स एंड इनिशियल डिपॉजिट्स, और वी कॉल इट एज क्रेडिट क्रिएटेड और इनिशियल डिपॉजिट्स, आर डायरेक्टली रिलेटेड. So guys, that's all about credit creation. If you like this video to be informative, then do hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel. Happy learning!